The Plague Diary. The leather-bound journal arrived at Dr. Eleanor Blackwood's office on a Tuesday morning in October. Nestled among medieval artifacts from a forgotten French monastery, unlike the corroded coins and deteriorated textiles surrounding it, the diary remained remarkably intact. Its blackened leather cover felt unnaturally cool to the touch, bearing only a single embossed symbol, a stylized raven with wings spread in flight. Eleanor's fingers trembled as she opened the clasp. The parchment pages emitted a musty odor carrying something acrid and vaguely medicinal. Her colleagues noticed the darkening circles beneath her eyes, her increasing pallor, her vacant stares. But the historian barely registered their concern. Her mind constantly returning to Corvinus's increasingly disturbing observations. The handwriting flowed across the pages in spidery script, the ink oxidized to a rusty brown resembling dried blood. Eleanor found herself unconsciously reproducing these symbols in her own note. The writing shifted to a cipher that took days to crack. What she uncovered sent ice through her veins. Corvinus believed the plague was not merely a disease, but an entity intelligent and purposeful. Pre claimed to have communicated with it, learning its desires and history. She accidentally spilled some powder onto the open diary, smearing it across Corvinus's final word. The powder dissolved into the parchment, the ink momentarily gleaming with oily iridescence. He described symptoms diverging from typical bubonic plague. Patients whose skin became translucent before blackening. Victims who spoke in unison despite being in separate rooms. Corpses whose limbs moved with purpose hours after death. Eleanor, a historian specializing in medieval medicine, recognized the historical significance of such a complete first-hand account. What began as professional interests quickly evolved into obsession. The university reported an unusual respiratory infection spreading among faculty and students. The infected moved with quiet purpose, their blackened skin eventually hardening into a glossy exoskeleton that cracked at the joints, revealing pulsating tissue beneath. Their clouded eyes conveyed an ancient intelligence, observing the modern world. Those infected developed blackened skin patterns and an unnerving, serene detachment coupled with increased physical contact with others. He detailed a ritual he believed could control the entity. She meticulously recreated his described mixture using modern equivalents, keeping the grayish powder in a sealed vial on her desk. Historical records showed the village had indeed experienced a sudden end to the outbreak, though Corvinus himself had disappeared. Eleanor stood at her apartment window, watching military vehicles patrol below. Blackened skin now covered most of her body, for she felt no fear. Only the cold satisfaction of the entity within her, executing its ancient purpose. From the pages rose a barely perceptible mist, twisting the air into writhing patterns. In the margin, nearly invisible, was a warning. What sleeps can wake. What is bound can be freed. What once was shall be again. For the plague is not disease but purpose incarnate. Eleanor collapsed across her desk, unconscious, her face pressed against the open diary. The journal belonged to Matthias Corvinus, a plague doctor who documented his experiences during the Black Death's ravages through a French village in 1348. Dark bruises appeared at her joints, spreading in geometric patterns. Bruises darkened to black, hardening into a carapace-like texture. Her fever reached delirious heights before breaking on the 4th day. Night after night, Eleanor hunched over the diary, translating the archaic Latin and French. The early entries documented conventional medical practices, but as the plague tightened its grip, Corvinus's writings grew erratic. Most disturbing were Corvinus's experiments. He collected bodily fluids from the infected and subjected them to alchemical processes. He wrote of a particular concoction infected blood, crushed herbs, and unidentifiable substances that, when heated, produce smoke-forming patterns resembling human faces. In the margins, Corvinus had sketched symbols from no known medieval iconography, resembling mathematical equations incorporating astronomical alignments and anatomical references. 3 weeks into her study, Eleanor discovered additional parchment sealed with wax bearing the raven insignia. According to Corvinus, the plague had existed since before human civilization, periodically emerging when summoned by specific conditions. Eleanor became convinced that Corvinus had discovered something profound. On the night she finished the final page, during a violent autumn storm that cut the power, Eleanor lit candles to continue working. The air grew oppressively thick. Eleanor's candles flickered unnaturally. When she awoke, Eleanor felt strangely altered. Over the next days, she developed what she assumed was a severe flu. Eleanor rose, feeling strangely euphoric. Most disturbing was the sense of presence within her mind, not voices, but impressions, urges, and a vast ancient awareness observing through her eyes. She returned to her university, deliberately brushing against colleagues in hallways, transferring microscopic particles from her skin to theirs. Within a week, the first colleagues fell ill. The disease spread with mathematical precision. Most horrifying was their coordination. Without communication, infected individuals converged on transportation hubs and food distribution centers, working with hive mind efficiency to maximize contamination. 6 weeks after Eleanor's initial contact with the diary, the World Health Organization declared a global pandemic. On her desk lay Corvinus's diary, open to its final page. Across the quarantined city, thousands of transformed bodies illuminated the night with a phosphorescent glow carriers, patiently executing the next phase of an ancient, inexorable design.